Hi, I'm Leanne DiBiase, registered dietitian for CVS and Urest, and welcome to Plant Forward Cooking. So today we're going to demonstrate two simple recipes. One is a meatless meatball recipe, and the other is a chocolate mousse. So let's get started on our meatless meatball recipe. All you're going to need for this recipe is a deep skillet, a few ingredients, and a food processor or blender. So to start with the meatless meatballs, we're going to be using tofu and mushrooms as our base and an egg as a binder. If you are trying to make this more of a vegan type of meal, then what you could do is pull out the egg and you could use what's called flaxseed egg, which is 1 tablespoon of flaxseed to 3 tablespoons of water. Let it thicken up and you could use that in place of an egg. Or you could even purchase an egg substitute in the vegan cooking aisle of your local supermarket. This recipe, though, I took half a cup of onions, chopped up the onions, and a couple of cloves of garlic that were chopped, added them to 2 tablespoons of olive oil in my skillet, cooked the onions for about 3 minutes until they were soft. Then added the 2 cups of mushrooms, cooked those for an additional 5 minutes till everything was nice and soft and had a beautiful garlicky onion aroma. Then I took that mixture from the skillet, put it into my food processor, pulsed it around a few times till the ingredients were combined. From then, I added tofu. So I had a 14-ounce package of tofu that you can get in the produce section of most supermarkets, drained it, so this is what it looks like firm, crumbled it up, added that to my food processor, pulsed it a little bit more so it mixed in with those lovely vegetables. Then we added a little bit of salt, and I added about quarter to a half a cup of breadcrumbs. Pulsed it a few more times, and from that came this mixture. So the mixture, again, like traditional meatballs, this is a high protein meatball, but the protein is coming from plants, which is going to be your mushrooms and your tofu. And tofu is actually considered a perfect protein in the plant world. It has all the amino acids, so it's equivalent to what you'd get if you were using ground beef or turkey to make your meatballs. From there, what I did was took the mixture, poured out some flour into a plate, and then just formed meatballs like you would traditionally do, rolled them in the flour, added them to my skillet. I took another 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, heated it up in the skillet, and then I cooked the meatballs for about 8 minutes aside. And here we have the meatballs are done. So now the next step in the recipe is we're going to make a very simple sauce that will add to the meatballs. Let these meatballs, or the meatless meatballs, simmer for about 15 minutes, and then we're ready to go. What could you do with these? You could serve them as a meatless meatball sandwich, which is what I'm having for dinner tonight. You could put them on traditional pasta, or if you wanted to continue with the whole plant-forward meal plan, get yourself a spaghetti squash, roast it up, and serve it on top of spaghetti squash. So the simple sauce that we're going to make, again, just using my food processor, is a can of whole plum tomatoes. To it, I'm going to add some salt, some oregano, 1 clove of garlic, and 6 fresh basil leaves. Just put that right in there. Then we're just going to mix this up. Now, that was pretty simple. Now I'm just going to take this mixture, pour it right into my pan, let it simmer for 15 minutes, and I'll have some lovely meatless meatballs to have with my plant-forward diet. So next on the menu is a plant-forward chocolate mousse. So what we'll be doing is mixing up a meringue. And while the meringue is mixing up, I'll also be melting some dark chocolate. So the dark chocolate that I've picked is a 78% cacao, dark chocolate, that seems to be what melts the best and mixes in the best with my meringue. The meringue that I'm using is a little bit different. I'm using a product called aquafaba. Aquafaba is the liquid from your chickpeas. So I drained my chickpeas into a bowl. All I'm going to do is use a hand mixer, mix this for about 10 to 15 minutes until there are lovely peaks that come up like a meringue. Then I will add a pinch of salt and some stevia to sweeten it. Once my chocolate has melted, and here's my lovely dark chocolate, once my dark chocolate has melted, I will add a teaspoon of vanilla to the dark chocolate. That slackens the chocolate, that allows it then to mix in with the meringue and give it a softer consistency instead of a granular consistency. So let's get going mixing up the meringue. So we've melted our chocolate over our double boiler, and we mixed up our aquafaba, and it has a meringue-like consistency with some lovely peaks. Once I got to the peaks, I added in the stevia and the salt, the pinch of salt. So now I'm going to fold in the chocolate. And the key is you just want to incorporate the chocolate ever so slightly into the mixture. You don't want to stir the mixture because you don't want to disrupt the meringue, because the key to a chocolate mousse is, or what makes a chocolate mousse so delicious, is how light and fluffy it is. So you can see I'm very gently incorporating that chocolate into the mousse. And the key with chocolate also, or the frustrating thing with chocolate, is that once you take it off the heat, it does start to solidify. So you have to do this pretty quickly so you don't get stuck with a bunch of just chocolate in your mixture. See, I'm folding it in underneath there. Smells really good. I wish you could all smell this. It really smells chocolatey and luscious. We're almost done here. Now, in doing a little research for this, one of the issues sometimes is, and I can see it happening a little in this, is that you do get like flecks of chocolate. And the recommendation, even though I did slack it with the vanilla, if you changed up the percentage of cacao. So I have a 78%. Some of the chefs who use this recipe will recommend dropping down to a 70% cacao. And that may help with getting rid of some of the graininess. But I have to tell you, looking at it though, it looks awfully soft and smooth. So I think I'm just about done. I've incorporated all that lovely dark chocolate in. So think about it. This is a great recipe. Dark chocolate is heart healthy. It's lower in sugar than milk chocolate. It's actually a recommendation in the Mediterranean diet. And we're using chickpea liquid, which again is plant forward. So this is a really nice, healthier type of recipe. I'm going to scoop some into my glass. Take this off since it's not hot anymore. I'll top it with a couple of strawberries, or maybe you could use some raspberries, and now I have a great dessert to go with my meatless meatballs I made earlier in the day. Enjoy.